So let's get some additional perspective on this issue, and for that we turn to Kumi Naidoo, chairman of Tck Tck Tck, a global alliance promoting a new climate change agreement. He is about to become executive director of Greenpeace International. Thank you for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.
So as we look ahead to Copenhagen, what do you think are some of the key issues, challenges, obstacles?
Not enough ambition, especially in terms of our governments agreeing to reduce emissions by 40% by 2020. They've agreed on 80% in 2050, but none of these leaders are going to be around in 2050, so we need short-term commitments. Also a clear commitment on financial support for developing countries who have not been responsible for the climate catastrophe that we find ourselves in, but are the ones that are paying the biggest price, and ensuring that there's resources for them to be able to adapt to climate change.
What about the responsibilities of developing countries, countries like China and India, who, yes, of course, want to protect their economies and forge ahead, but at the same time have a responsibility because they are also a part of the global environment?
Developing countries cannot dodge their own responsibilities. They have to pass domestic legislation that begins to reduce their carbon emissions. They are already actually doing it much more than people are generally aware of, but they have to recognize that this is an issue where we either as rich and poor countries together succeed, or if we fail, we all sink together. So it's no point saying that just because rich countries were more responsible for the situation we find ourselves in, therefore they cannot take responsibility. They must also take responsibility, but the burden of responsibility needs to obviously be with countries that have been more responsible.
And what role should the United States be playing?
The United States has to play a leadership role under the Bush administration. Because of climate denialism, we actually lost some very important time. President Obama, in broad terms, is on a positive message and it sounds encouraging, but the devil is in the detail, and the US needs to recognize that if they delay action any further than they've already done, the costs of delaying action will be much, much more if they were to act now.
What do you think is going to be the biggest bottleneck?
The biggest bottleneck is going to be short-term political interests because of election cycles and politicians making choices that in fact this is not that important. But I think that the role of citizens' movements to put pressure on our governments to act is critically important to ensure that they act with courage that delivers a fair, ambitious and binding treaty in Copenhagen.
All right, Kumi Naidoo, thank you very much.
Thank you.